Welcome to this class on the Mahabharata. This is the first video that provides you with an introduction to the entire course. I'm Dr. Lisa Love, and I am the one that created the course, and I am also the narrator of it. And along those lines, I want to start out first of all with a note about dialect. In northern India, it is customary to drop the A at the end of many words. Therefore, you're going to hear me say Mahabharat instead of Mahabharata. You will likewise hear me use the word Arjun instead of Arjuna, though at times I may slip up and say Mahabharata and Arjuna. In general, I will keep the A gone and say Mahabharat. Knowing this will help clarify for you why I pronounce these words the way I do in this video series. And also please understand that I've chosen the northern dialect because if you are fortunate enough to watch the various video series of this great story, you will notice that many of them drop the A at the end, which is why I have chosen to do so as well. So let's start with a quick overview on the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is one of the world's most ancient stories, and that alone makes it worth study. In the traditional sense, this story is about an epic war that pits brother against brother and family members against one another in what many claim to have been one of the world's bloodiest and fiercest battles. It is a dramatic tale with many moral, cultural, and political lessons for how to live our lives. But as we shall see esoterically, it is really about much, much more. The story reveals the battle within each one of us and how the forces of ignorance and selfishness can either destroy us or how, if we enter the battle with enough courage and wisdom, we may rise up and become victorious in helping to establish the rule of Krishna or Christ consciousness within us all, bringing a new heaven to earth. As we dive deeper and take an esoteric look at this epic tale, we will see then how it's really about a shift in consciousness that is attempting to take place within ourselves and throughout our earth. And we're going to learn how these shifts usually take place when cataclysmic events happen throughout our world. And this course is going to demonstrate how these earth shifts result in conflicts that take place when the old level of consciousness struggles to give way to the new level of consciousness, but is eventually defeated. And the course will show how each of us is obliged to make this shift within ourselves first. And the course will reveal the warriors poised to help us make that shift, as well as those ready to defeat us along these lines. And we're going to see that there are those who have already made this shift quite successfully. They are known as avatars. And they are working to show others how to make that shift in consciousness with the least amount of pain and struggle as possible, if we follow the guidance they have laid down for us. Most importantly, we're going to see very clearly how this is not an ancient story, but one that is happening right here and right now. So first, what I want to do is give obeisances or homage to three people that have really influenced me throughout this video series. We'll start with Ved Vyasa, who we will learn is the author of the Mahabharata, as well as Paramahansa Yogananda, who we will meet more shortly, and Helena Blavatsky. And before we get into the Mahabharata, the epic story, we need to understand that it comes out of India and is associated with Hinduism. But to truly understand its esoteric significance, I need to lay some background by reviewing events that took place before the story of the Mahabharata began. These events give us the proper context to the deeper meaning of the Mahabharata story and are found in two other important works that also come out of India: the Ramayana and the Vishnu Purana. What is the Vishnu Purana? Well, for those of you who are not aware, Hinduism, possibly the oldest major religion on earth, gave birth to some of the oldest religious texts known on our planet, the Vedas. These sacred scriptures give guidelines for how to live a spiritual life. But associated with the Vedas are another set of sacred texts coming out of India, the Purans, a word which means ancient stories. In general, there are considered to be 36 Puranic texts, 18 considered major and 18 minor. Now, the Purans are essential stories, mainly speaking about the divine incarnations of avatars, who are gods who become human beings in order to help humanity evolve. Now, different Purans share stories about different Hindu deities, and some texts favor one Hindu deity as more supreme than the other. For example, the three main gods in Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the Shiva Puran considers the god Shiva as supreme, whereas the Vishnu Puran, and actually most of the Purans, considers Vishnu, pictured here, as the supreme being. In fact, in the Vishnu Puran, Vishnu gives birth to both Brahma and Shiva, who are simply deities Vishnu generates from inside himself to help him create the beginning and the end of various stories that are played out within the universe like cosmic video games for Vishnu's enjoyment. So let's get an introduction to the esoteric meaning, since that's what this video course is going to be about. We're going to start with a quote from H.P. Blavatsky, also likes to be known as HPB, the famous theosophist. And it's interesting because she says, quote, "It is evident that taken in their dead letter, the Purans read as an absurd tissue of fairy tales and no better. But if one reads it, various chapters of the Vishnu Puran, then the reader is likely to throw the book away and pronounce it a farrago, a confused mixture of nonsense." But the esoteric student will understand in the days when the Purans were written, the true meaning was clear only to the initiated Brahmins, who wrote these works allegorically and would not give the truth to the masses. HPB, The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, page 320. So who is this esoteric student that she's talking about? Well, he is someone who can penetrate deeper into seemingly mythological stories and see what these allegories truly represent in the way of deeper truths, to show us the way individually and collectively to live our lives in a spiritual way. And as for the initiated Brahmins, who might also be called the advanced yogis, let's draw from the esoteric teachings of one Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda came to the United States from India as of 1920 and established his main headquarters in Los Angeles, where the Theosophical Society also was operating, as well as the Crotona Institute, the esoteric section of the Theosophical Society. Throughout this video course, then, we're going to look at some of the Theosophical Society's views as well as Yogananda's, using primarily his exposition on the Mahabharata in his book, the Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual text found within the Mahabharata story. Though many people over the ages have written books on the Bhagavad Gita, few have taken the time the way Yogananda did to show how important it was to understand the Mahabharata story first. In fact, Yogananda dedicated 170 pages of his 2-volume great work on the Bhagavad Gita towards revealing the esoteric meaning first of the classic Mahabharata text and the significance of its many characters. Now, as you're going to see in this course, I draw heavily on Yogananda's more esoteric understanding of this story for this reason. Going back to the Vishnu Purana to let you know, the Puranic stories are thought to have been compiled by Ved Vyasa some 5,000 years ago. Now, Ved Vyasa, we already mentioned, wrote the Mahabharata. He wrote the Purans, and he also wrote the Vedas, which is why he's considered Ved Vyasa, though there are some who say that there was more than one Ved Vyasa. And we'll get into that discussion later on in this video series. The Vedas, the Purans, and the Mahabharata were transmitted from generation to generation orally for thousands of years. And though there is some evidence that they were altered over the millennia, they are mostly considered to be intact. The first of the Purans to have been written down was the Vishnu Purana, which was committed into writing in the early 300s Common Era, something that Blavatsky also asserts in her Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, page 58. Now, to let you know, around the 300s Common Era is around the time that we had Constantinople deciding in that Council of Nicaea to make Christianity the overall religion of Rome. However, it was not until 1864 Common Era that the Vishnu Purana became more popular, primarily because a man named Horace Hayman Wilson translated the Vishnu Purana into English, and we have his book cover right there. And it was this translation that theosophical writer H.P. Blavatsky drew from heavily to help establish her own understanding of the Hindu system of cosmogony, cosmology, mythical genealogy of the gods, sages and kings, which are also known as the Kumaras and Manus and so forth, cosmic cycles, and more in her book, The Secret Doctrine. In fact, the more I got into studying the Purans, the clearer it became to me that much of what Blavatsky wrote about in her famous classic, The Secret Doctrine, was actually pulled from Puranic text, especially the Vishnu Purana, which she cites frequently in her book. So that's our basic introduction, and we're going to, in the next video, look again at the Vishnu Purana, this time a lot more in detail, so that we can see how the Vishnu Purana relates to the classic story, the Mahabharata. I look forward to meeting you in the next video as we discuss this. Thanks for watching.